In question F, we've been given two random points, and we should make note that they're not symmetrical, and 1, 0. So what we're going to do is start with the factored form. Again, we need to make sure that we account for that a, and we have one factor, so we get x minus 3. We don't have the other factor, so I'm going to have to write it as x minus m. So what ends up happening is I have two unknowns, which means that I need to come up with a system of equations. So one equation that I'm going to come up with is going to use the coordinate 7 and 2. So I'm going to plug in y equals 2, x equals 7. That gives me this equation. I'm going to simplify this. So I end up with 4a times 7 minus m. And I need to come up with a second equation. That second equation is going to be based on this coordinate. So I end up with 14 is equal to a negative 1 minus 3 negative 1 minus m. And again, I'm going to simplify this expression. So I get 14 is equal to negative 4a and negative 1 minus m. Okay, so I have to do some kind of substitution here. What I can actually do is I can simplify and one of these expressions and solve for 4a, and I can do a 4a replacement. So I'm going to do this. 2 is equal to 2 over 7 minus m is equal to 4a. There's a negative in here, so I'm going to just simplify this and make this positive 4a, and this becomes 1 plus m. So I factor the negative out to cancel out with the negative out front. And then at this point, I'm going to do a substitution. I'm going to substitute for that 4a. So I end up with 14 is equal to 2 over 7 minus m times 1 plus m. So there's my equal substitution. I now have a equation which I can solve algebraically. So I'm going to cross multiply this. So I get 14, 7 minus m is equal to 2, 1 plus m. Expanding this out, 14 times 7, I get 91 minus 14m equals 2 plus 2m. Solving for m, subtract 2 from both sides. I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides, add 14 to both sides, so I get 16m. So I get m is equal to 89 over, this is not 89, I just make a mistake here, this is 98 minus 14m. So be doing this algebra here, I'm going to end up with, looks like 96 is equal to 16m. Divide both sides by 16. That's going to divide in there 6 times. So m is equal to 6. And then using one of these equations, I can solve for a. So first of all, I'm just going to highlight what m is. That's my m value. Okay, and then solving for a, I'm going to plug it into equation 1. So I'm going to have 7 minus 6 equals 4a. That's from the blue equation over to the left, and then solve for a in this case. I end up with 2 over 1 equals 4a. So I end up with a is equal to 2 divided by 4, which is 1/2. So there is my a value. Okay, I've got my a value, I've got my m. I solved this as a system of equations. So my equation then works out to be y equals 1/2 x minus 3 from what the factor that was given, and then x minus 6, that m value that I solved for.